The merciless late-afternoon sun made the asphalt of the rural road steam as Maya Johnson walked home from school. The 10-year-old girl slowed her pace when she saw the shiny red Shelby GT 500 Mustang parked on the shoulder, its hood up like a wide-open mouth. A white man in a suit that surely cost more than all the furniture in her house paced circles beside the car, yelling into his phone. "I do not care how much you charge for the tow," he snapped. "I have been stuck on this deserted road for 2 hours. I have a meeting with the governor." The man checked his solid gold watch. In less than 3 hours, for God's sake. Maya considered for a moment whether she should go on her way. Her Aunt Renee always told her not to talk to strangers, especially those who seemed so obviously out of place in their humble, predominantly black community 2 hours from Boston. But something about the man's desperate frustration made her stop. Maya adjusted the weight of her worn backpack where she carried her books, and more importantly, the small tool kit her Uncle Leon had given her. He was a mechanic who insisted that everyone should know at least the basics about engines. "Excuse me, sir," Maya called out, approaching cautiously. "Do you need some help with your car?" Andrew Whitaker, CEO of Whitaker Enterprises and owner of half of Boston's commercial real estate, turned in surprise. The irritation on his face quickly turned to condescension when he saw the small figure with colorful braids, faded shorts, and an MIT t-shirt that was clearly too big for her. "That is very kind of you." "Sweetheart," he said, his tone dismissive, "but this is a high-performance vehicle. I need a real mechanic." Maya shrugged, stepping closer to peer under the hood. "My uncle has a garage and has been teaching me about cars since I learned to walk. I can at least take a look." Before Andrew could protest, she had already dropped her backpack on the ground and was leaning over the engine with surprising confidence. "When did the problem start?" she asked, all professionalism. Andrew sighed, realizing he did not have much to lose. "The engine started overheating about 40 minutes ago, and then it just died." "Did you smell anything sweet? Like syrup?" Andrew blinked, surprised. "Yes, now that you mention it. How did you know?" "Cooling system," Maya said. She pointed to a small puddle under the car that Andrew had not even noticed. "It is leaking coolant. That is why it overheated." As she spoke, Andrew watched the girl with growing curiosity. There was something strangely familiar about her, the way she furrowed her brow slightly in concentration, how her intelligent eyes scanned the engine methodically. "What is your name?" he asked suddenly. "Maya. Maya Johnson." She held out her hand, already stained with a bit of grease from her inspection. He shook it hesitantly. "Andrew Whitaker." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Whitaker. I think I can fix this temporarily." Maya opened her backpack and took out a small metal case. "Uncle Leon makes me carry an emergency kit. You never know when someone might need help on the road." Andrew watched, fascinated, as the girl worked with impressive efficiency, locating the leak in the radiator hose and applying a special sealant tape. "That should hold until you get to town," she explained. "But you will need to add water to replace the lost coolant." It was when Maya raised her hand to brush her hair away from her face that Andrew saw it. A ring with an emerald green stone set in antique gold, held on her finger with thread wrapped around the base to keep it from slipping off her small finger. Andrew's world seemed to stop. The sun glinted off the stone, reflecting an internal pattern he would recognize anywhere, a small, crescent-shaped imperfection. It was a ring he had given 12 years ago to a little girl named Maya at an orphanage called Little Angels, days before it was mysteriously closed. "That ring," Andrew began, his voice suddenly trembling. "It is very unusual." Maya looked down at her hand. "It was my mother's, my adoptive mother, Diana. She died last year." A shadow of sadness crossed her face. "She said it was a symbol of an important promise." "May I ask where Diana got this ring?" Maya shrugged. "She never told me exactly. She just said it belonged to someone special, and that one day I would understand its meaning." Andrew tried to pull himself together, his mind reeling. He offered to drive Maya home as a thank you. She hesitated only briefly before accepting. During the 15-minute drive, Andrew asked seemingly casual questions about her life. Where she went to school, how long she had lived there, who she had lived with since her adoptive mother had died. I live with my Aunt Renee and Uncle Leon, Maya explained. They took me in when Diana died. Have you always lived here? Andrew asked, trying to keep his voice casual as he gripped the steering wheel tightly. Since I was 3. Before that, Maya hesitated. Diana did not talk about it much. I know I was adopted from an orphanage called Little Angels. It closed soon after. Andrew almost lost control of the car. Little Angels? Are you sure? Yes, why? Do you know it? Andrew took a deep breath, his knuckles white on the wheel. I did. A long time ago. As they approached a modest but well-kept house, Andrew stopped the car. Maya thanked him and said goodbye. But before she could get out, he handed her a crisp white business card. Maya, if you ever need anything at all, please call me. The girl accepted the card with a curious look and got out of the car. Andrew watched as she ran toward the house, the ring sparkling in the sun. His hands trembled as he picked up his phone to call his private investigator. What Maya could not know as she waved one last time to the stranger in his expensive car was that this chance encounter had just set in motion events that would reveal secrets kept for more than a decade. Secrets that connected a billion-dollar empire, a mysteriously closed orphanage, and a black girl with an extraordinary ability to fix broken things. Andrew spent 3 sleepless nights staring at enlarged photos of the emerald ring his investigator had captured. The jewel he had given little Maya at the Little Angels orphanage as a promise that he would come back for her, a promise he never kept. In his office at Whitaker Enterprises, he examined documents scattered across his desk. 12 years ago, his father, Howard Whitaker, had bought the Little Angels property for a fraction of its value, citing financial irregularities. Coincidentally, Andrew was named CEO shortly thereafter. Mr. Whitaker, Mr. Evans from Legal is here with the Horizon Project documents, his assistant announced. The Horizon Project? A luxury complex under construction on the very site where the orphanage had once stood. Andrew quickly tucked the orphanage reports away before Evans entered. The Little Angels acquisition documents are here, Evans said, placing a file on the desk. Although I do not understand why we are revisiting such old business. Your father was quite specific about keeping these documents on file. My father is retired in Florida, Andrew replied dryly. And I run the company now. As he examined the documents after Evans left, Andrew discovered suspicious bank transfers and, more disturbingly, a list of children who had been reallocated when the orphanage closed. Maya Johnson's name was circled in red with a note, Special Case. Contact HW, his investigator Ramirez called with more news. I found Diana Johnson. Car accident last year. Brakes failed. Suspicious circumstances. What about the adoption records? Andrew asked, his stomach tightening. Missing, officially. It is as if Maya Johnson never existed at Little Angels. Find out everything you can about her current family, Andrew ordered, a sense of dread and determination settling over him. Meanwhile, Maya was working in the small workshop behind her aunt and uncle's house. The place was her refuge. Tools were organized neatly on the walls, and the air held the comforting smell of oil and grease. Did you manage to fix the old radio? Leon asked, entering the workshop with a warm smile. Maya grinned, lifting the 1950s radio. I did it. Just had to reconnect a few wires. Leon affectionately ruffled his niece's braids. You have a gift, girl. I have never seen anyone understand machines like you do. Uncle, Maya began, her smile fading slightly. Do you think my mom would be proud? Diana was so proud of you, Leon said firmly. She could have burst with it. Maya twirled the ring on her finger, a nervous habit. I met a rich man the other day. His car broke down and I fixed it. He recognized my ring. Leon froze. What man? Andrew Whitaker. He gave me his card. Maya showed them the expensive card. He seemed really strange when he saw my ring. Leon's face paled. He exchanged a heavy glance with Renee, who had appeared at the door, her expression tense. Maya, dear, Renee said, her voice unusually tight. Remember when we promised to tell you the whole truth about Diana when you were older? I think that time has come. That night, by the light of the kitchen lamp, Maya heard the hidden story. They told her how Diana, a nurse at the orphanage, had run away with her when the orphanage suddenly closed. How they had changed their names and gone into hiding for years. always looking over their shoulders, living in fear. "Your mother left this for you?" Renee said, her hands trembling as she handed Maya a yellowed envelope. "She made us promise to give it to you only if someone from the Whitaker family ever showed up." With trembling hands, Maya broke the seal and began to read. "My dear Maya, if you are reading this, someone has found you. There are things you need to know?" At Andrew's apartment, Ramirez called again. "Sir, someone else is investigating little angels." "A reporter named Marcus Hayes. What does he know?" Andrew asked, pacing his luxurious living room. "Quite a lot," Ramirez replied. "And he has a theory about why your father was so interested in certain children at the orphanage, specifically children with unusual talents." The next day, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up in front of Maya's school. 2 men in dark suits watched as she left with her friends. "Is that her?" one asked quietly. "The girl with the emerald ring?" "Yes," the other confirmed. "Mr. Whitaker Sr. wants to see her immediately." What they did not know was that Leon was parked across the street, his protective instincts on high alert. He saw the men, saw them watching his niece. He took out his cell phone and dialed a number Diana had left for emergencies. A man's voice answered. "Marcus Hayes," the voice said. "It is about little angels," Leon said, his voice low and urgent, "and a girl with an emerald ring. I think I have the proof you are looking for." At Whitaker Enterprises, Andrew stared at his father, Howard, who had flown in from Florida without warning. "What is this about you reviewing the little angel's documents?" Howard demanded, his voice a low growl. "I thought that matter was closed and buried." "I found Maya Johnson, Dad," Andrew said, meeting his father's gaze. "The girl with the emerald ring." Howard paled, but his expression quickly hardened into a mask of cold indifference. "So what? Just another orphan. What matters is Project Horizon. Billions are at stake. What was so special about that girl?" Andrew pressed, stepping closer. Howard laughed dryly. "Do not you really understand what is at stake here? Some children are not just children. They are assets. They have talents that can be exploited." "She fixes things," Andrew said slowly, the pieces starting to click into a horrifying picture. "She can look at broken machines and just understand them." Howard's smile was icy. "Think of the military applications, the patents, the power. Why do you think we bought that orphanage in the first place? To harvest potential." What neither Whitaker realized was that Maya was already reading Diana's letter, her world shifting with every word. She was discovering the truth about her past and her special talents, and more importantly, she was discovering why the emerald ring was so valuable. It was not just a piece of jewelry, but a key to secret documents and recordings that Diana had hidden, evidence that could bring down an empire. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place with terrifying speed. On one side stood a powerful corporation ready to protect its secrets at any cost. On the other stood a 10-year-old girl with an extraordinary talent and a ring worth far more than its weight in emeralds. And between them stood a man, Andrew, who was now trying to decide which side of the story he wanted to be on, finally understanding that his legacy was not one of wealth, but of wickedness. The conference room on the 50th floor of Whitaker Enterprises was buzzing with nervous executives. Howard Whitaker had called an emergency meeting, his normally controlled face now contorted into a mask of fury. "Where is my son?" Howard demanded, pounding the massive glass table. "Andrew should have been here an hour ago." As if summoned by his words, the double doors swung open. Andrew entered calmly, accompanied by a woman in a severe suit whom no one recognized. "Sorry I am late, Dad," Andrew said with a calmness that made Howard frown deeply. "This is Federal Prosecutor Claire Bennett. She has some questions about Project Prometheus." Howard's face lost all its color. Project Prometheus. The code name for the secret program to identify and exploit children with special talents. A name that should never be mentioned in public, let alone to federal authorities. "What the hell do you think you are doing?" Howard hissed, his composure cracking. Andrew walked over to the large screen on the wall and connected his laptop. "Something I should have done a long time ago. Telling the truth about Little Angels and the other 5 institutions you have closed down over the last 15 years. The lights dimmed and the screen came to life with documents, photographs, and damning reports. Detailed records of 48 special children identified, tested, and exploited by Whitaker Enterprises. You stole confidential documents. Howard tried to regain his composure, pointing a shaking finger. That is corporate crime. Industrial espionage. These are documents evidencing far worse crimes, Andrew replied, his voice steady and clear. Unauthorized experiments on minors, falsification of adoption records, bribery of public officials, intimidation of witnesses. A video began playing on the screen. Grainy security footage from 12 years ago showed a young nurse, whom Andrew now knew to be Diana Johnson, fleeing in the middle of the night with a small child in her arms. Next, an audio clip played of Howard instructing security guards. Find her. The girl has significant military potential. We cannot lose her. 3 Little Angels employees died in accidents in the weeks that followed, Andrew continued relentlessly, including Diana's own brother, who had started asking too many questions. You have no idea of the implications, Howard began, but was cut off when the doors swung open again. Maya Johnson entered, accompanied by Uncle Leon and a man carrying a professional camera, Marcus Hayes of the Boston Globe. Maya, Andrew said softly, a mix of pride and concern in his eyes. You did not have to come? Yes, I did, she replied with a surprising dignity for someone so young. She stood straight, her gaze fixed on Howard. Diana always said that one day I would have to face the men who made us run. Howard looked at the girl, his expression shifting from shock to cold, clinical calculation. So you are Project 17, the prodigy. I did not imagine you would be so small. And you are the man who killed my mother, Maya replied, her gaze unflinching. Her brakes did not fail by accident, did they? Howard smiled, a thin, cruel line regaining his confidence. Proving anything would be impossible. And you are forgetting who I am. One phone call and all of this disappears. That was when Maya opened her backpack and took out the emerald ring. With deft fingers, she turned the stone, revealing a hidden, minuscule secret compartment. From inside, she took out a tiny data storage device. Diana was smarter than you thought, she said, her voice clear and strong in the silent room. This is a storage device she hid in the ring. It contains backup copies of all the Little Angels records, including audio recordings of your meetings with military doctors about harnessing children with enhanced cognitive abilities for strategic applications. Howard Whitaker, for the first time in his life, was utterly speechless. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. This is being broadcast live right now, Marcus Hayes explained, pointing to his camera. To our studio and directly to social media platforms. Over 10,000 people are already watching, and that number is climbing fast. Andrew walked over to his father, keeping his voice low so only Howard could hear. It is over, Dad. The prosecutor has a deal for me. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. As for you, well, we will let a jury decide. As federal agents entered the room to arrest Howard Whitaker, Maya approached the man who had destroyed so many lives. He was being handcuffed, his empire crumbling live for the world to see. My mother taught me that broken machines can be fixed, she said calmly, looking up at him. But broken people need to fix themselves. I hope you get that chance in prison. Howard was led away, his head bowed, his power finally stripped from him. In the days that followed, Whitaker Enterprises' stock plummeted. Investigations revealed decades of unethical practices, illegal experimentation, and systematic corruption. Andrew watched it all with a complex mix of relief and regret. He had lost his family and his inheritance, but he had found something more valuable: his integrity. At the courthouse, as Howard awaited his preliminary hearing, Maya approached Andrew on the steps outside. The morning sun was bright, reflecting off the glass buildings around them. What happens now? She asked, the emerald ring sparkling on her finger. No longer a symbol of secrets, but of truth revealed. Andrew looked out at the city skyline, at the skyscrapers that had been built with money stained by exploitation and suffering. Among them, the gleaming Whitaker building, which would soon lose its name forever. Now, he said, turning to her with a new sense of purpose, we rebuild, not just buildings, but lives. What none of them could have predicted at that moment was how that rebuilding would transform not just their lives,